In the wake of Iran's race for nuclear capability, Israel and the US will hold a joint large-scale missile defense exercise next year to improve our operational coordination of their defense systems. Both the Arrow 2 and Iron Dome missile defense systems and America's THAAD, as well as the ship-based Aegis ballistic missile defense system, will take part in the exercise, where actual launching interceptors will be used. Last week, Air Force Commander in the EUCOM, General Mark Welsh, visited Israel for talks with Israel Air Force Commander Major General Ido Nehushtan. The two discussed the upcoming Juniper Cobra exercise. Officials said the exercise, scheduled to take place in early 2012, will be one of the most extensive and complex ever. The aim of the exercise is to create the necessary infrastructure that would enable interoperability between Israel and American missile defense systems in case the US government decides to deploy these systems in Israel in the event of a conflict with Iran. Top Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat condemned Israel and the United States during a briefing for 90 Palestinian envoys in Istanbul this week. He warned if the US continues its efforts to stymie their attempts to gain international statehood recognition, the Palestinian Authority should be dismantled. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas should throw the keys into their faces, he declared. The Palestinian Authority strives for independence, and if it cannot achieve that, it should no longer exist, he said. If the US wants the Palestinian Authority to continue to exist, then the price is the establishment of a Palestinian state in keeping with the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital, Erekat said. He also told the envoys the entire peace process with Israel should be re-evaluated. Ankara strongly condemned Israel for approving the building of new homes in West Bank settlements, a Turkish Foreign Ministry statement said. The comments were in response to the Israeli Ministry of Housing and Construction's publishing of tenders for 336 housing units in West Bank settlements last week. Israel's illegal actions on the lands it has invaded are unacceptable, the Turkish Foreign Ministry statement said. This decision will deepen the suspicions of Israel's sincerity in pushing the peace process forward. We stress that we don't recognize the illegal steps Israel is taking, challenging international law, the statement said. According to the tender, 294 new homes will be built in Beitar Illit, outside of Jerusalem, and 42 units in Karnei Shomron in Samaria near Kfar Saba. In April, the Defense Ministry approved the construction of the homes in Beitar Illit. Both West Bank settlements are located within the settlement blocks Israel believes will be included in its permanent borders once a final status agreement with the Palestinians is achieved. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled his trip to Poland in order to present a series of reforms aimed at solving the housing crisis, his office said. Netanyahu is expected to discuss the reforms at a press conference with Finance Minister Yuval Steinitz and Housing Minister Ariel Atias on Tuesday. The announcement came as nationwide protests over the lack of affordable housings entered its 12th day, with demonstrators blocking roads in Jerusalem and Haifa. Officials close to Netanyahu described the reforms he intends to introduce as revolutionary and said they will significantly improve the housing situation for young couples, demobilized soldiers and students. The reforms are expected to include incentives for contractors to build low-cost housing in central districts, and land will be allocated across the country for such projects. Incentives will also be given to those who change office buildings into residential ones. The United Nations said it will postpone the release of the UN Palmer Commission report on the Mavi Marmara until late August. UN spokesman Martin Naserki gave no specific date for the much-delayed report. However, sources said the report has been delayed a month to allow Israel and Turkey to find a formula to renew full diplomatic ties and obviate the need to release the report. The report has been widely publicized and upholds the legality of Israel's naval blockade on the Gaza Strip, but takes the army to task for using disproportionate force in enforcing the blockade. In the raid on the Turkish boat in May last year, 9 Turkish activists were killed after soldiers who boarded the boat were confronted with severe violence. Turkey is demanding Israel apologize for the incident, pay compensation to the families of the victims and lift the blockade on Gaza. Israel has so far refused to apologize.